So, doesn't matter where you sit.
It should be recording now.
So I have us up, unmuted. There they should be able to hear us.
Hi, Ingrid. Thanks for joining us. We're still waiting on a few folks to filter in. Expecting this to be a fairly brief meeting.
Okay, sounds good.
Thank you.
I was just in Pelham. Not too far from you guys. Race back. I should have actually come.
Ingrid, are you doing the memorial school project?
No, we're actually working with the town hall, redoing their planning codes, offices.
Oh, gotcha. Who's doing the design work for memorial school? Is that Valley again?
I don't even know. I want to say it's Harriman. I don't think it's La Valley.
And Bonapage and Stone, I think.
You gotta move that thing. Unless somebody says as you speak.
So is it the night lighters out of Nellis while the F-117 still, the red flag exercise?
My son was attached down there in Hunter on the airfield. This is college. And flying Black Hawks. But after 6 years.
No, I see.
Do you have the plans brought up? Oh, they are.
They want us to share the screen, I guess.
I would just don't want it just in case.
Jeremiah.
Yeah.
Just want to show you this.
All right, great. Well, welcome everyone. It is 5:01, so I apologize for starting a moment behind, but I appreciate you all being here. I will call this meeting of the Joint Facilities Advisory Committee to order. So we have one item and one item only on the agenda tonight, and that is to determine which of the two draft designs to move forward for recommendation to the Amherst School Board for the Wilkins School Project. As we've been talking about over the last several meetings, Banwell Architects has presented us with two draft options. One, which is building up onto the upper field, which we're calling option A. And then there's the option C, which is utilizing basically the existing site that we have now, and also leveraging and making use of the existing multi-purpose room. So that is what we're discussing tonight. I want to be clear, we're not talking about any specifics. We're not talking about the HVAC. We're not talking about the flooring. We're not talking about, what kind of windows we're using. We're really talking about the site and general design capacity of each building. so that we can have all those other conversations, so that we can give the construction management firm and the architects a direction in which to move forward. So does that make sense to everyone? Okay, so what you have in these drawings, you've seen them before. They're option A and option C. We'll recall that when we looked at very preliminary numbers on A and C, there was a little more site work involved with option A on the upper field. And that's definitely the bigger difference between the two. With that, I'm going to kind of open it up to questions to start out with, or comments or thoughts on general. I'm feeling like from all of our meetings to date, there was a general direction that we were moving towards on all of this, but I would like to hear from all of you. So not to put you on the spot, but I do want to let everybody have a moment to chime in. I'm just going to kind of go around the room. If you don't mind.
Sure, I'm fine with that.
Okay.
I concur with you all. I think we're all kind of heading in sort of the same direction. And on that note, so Plan C, don't seem to address the idea of the access road that was going kind of looping around the school for Plan A, but isn't on Plan C, but there is going to be a requirement probably for circulation around the school for fire department access, general building maintenance. And because that buffer zone is kind of so close with that little dashed red line, is there anything about addressing that concern?
To addressing the access road on Plan C.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna look to you, Roger or Amy. Have you had an opportunity to discuss that at all any further, or Brad or Ingrid? The question was regarding the access road in Plan C.
So we will be discussing it with the local code and fire, as well as the state fire marshal. Roger, have we gotten a civil engineer on board yet? Is that?
We've talked about time bond, but we're bringing it tomorrow to the Amherst School Board for recommendation, I believe.
So yeah, so-
no,
But so other than that, they didn't really, so from the plans we reviewed before, there aren't any significant changes.
No.
Okay.
No, the biggest change actually, so I say no, the biggest change is in the enrollment capacity on these designs. So the original plan that you saw had 8 classrooms per grade. We have, Amy did a presentation at our last meeting regarding enrollment projections, and these designs have 7 classrooms per grade.
Okay.
Yeah, but that's the only difference.
Yeah, I just have a question about, and I still have some reservations about having the second floor of option C open down into the gym. And how kids moving through a hallway, going to the bathroom and not being distracted, it's right by the special ed rooms. I'm just wondering about noise abatement, distraction abatement, like all of those things.
Yeah.
Is there another way to develop that space?
So option C around the gym, we've anticipated actually having walls with windows, so it wouldn't be completely open down to the gym. Is that what you're concerned about?
Sorry, can you say that again?
The original plan, they were gonna have walls with windows, you can see into the gym, so it's open space, but it's walled off, so it's a corridor.
Okay,
So from like sound mitigation, it muffles
yeah.
the density of the sound traversing back to the classroom.
I just have envisioned like the graduate, like kids, and then like to get to their friends, like, hey, who's your kids? They're good.
Sure. No, I think it's a valid question. My follow-up to that, I guess, would be, if we go the way of option C, as we're trying to narrow between these two, is that something we can discuss further?
Of course.
Yes. Is there room still, if we say, this is the direction we want to go, we like the location, we like the 2 levels, we may have some issue with that specific part of it, right? Is that something we could still, yeah.
Okay.
Does that satisfy?
Yeah, and if
Okay.
it's not gonna cost any more money to do something differently, then I'm for it, but if it's gonna add
Sure.
cost, then it'll be what it is.
What is the difference in the staging time for these two in terms of being able to build one with the building that's there and still utilizing the building that's there?
It's a good question. That's a loaded question. Roger, did the construction managers, I mean, because we just dealt with them, I'm just trying to
Oh, he's back.
remember. It all depends on portables and how big the portables are. I would say, you know, they're both similar.
Yeah, and Tom, I think a lot of those staging questions were in the presentation that was presented during the construction
Yeah, I
manager.
didn't remember.
So, and I apologize, I don't have those summarized here, but
That's fine,
we can look at
I'll
that.
look it up.
I think option C would be a little more complex because of the way the building is versus option A. You know, you build up and you're not affecting the school, and then you demo the school and build down. So, you know, option C is a little more complex.
I mean, you can see where the existing footprint of the building is, so that it's strategized so that for the first phase of construction, it could accommodate, you know, 33 classrooms, which is in excess of what you have currently at Clark and Wilkins. So
I think the duration, you know, is months apart. It's not years apart, if that helps.
Thank you.
Curtis, going around the room.
I know the last time we met, we talked about potentially doing a 3D view. One of the concerns was to potentially have 2 or 3 stories. If you're building up on the hillside, the concern was what would the view be as you're driving through town? Is it going to be this monstrosity, or does it actually nestle nicely into the hillside? So I don't know if you have the opportunity to get something quick together, because I think that has a lot of impact in terms of the way it would be positioned and look. You have one large building on the lower level that is discontinuous versus sort of a bifurcated building where you've got the upper and the lower segments. So that'll be helpful. The thing I like about option A is that you now have really dual access from 2 different, really 3 different streets to get to the school. You're pushing all the lower elementary up to the top of the hill. They got their own entry point, their own buses can go through there differently. You have separate parking, you don't have a ton of parking. And I actually think moving the field down creates a better environment for the community overall, because those backfields on the weekends just gets a lot of chaos back there. There's cars parked everywhere for those games, whereas if you were to flip that and go to the front of the building, there's a lot more parking down there. It creates a lot more access to people just commuting around town. To me, it's a lot more logical way to lay out the overall portfolio of all of the different things going on there versus just the building itself. That's why option A to me is intriguing. With respect that I think the height and the size and the mass of the building might be overwhelming. That's why I think C would be helpful.
Option C.
No,
I'm seeing it. I'm sorry, I thought you said I'm seeing it. Right, okay, and I don't think we have that, do we, at this point?
3D from the site, we don't have the site modeled. The civil engineer would need to model the site, so we can eventually, but not tonight, sorry.
Okay.
yeah, it's gonna be 14 feet higher than the, you know, at least than option C from the ground level.
Is it possible to do we have any elevation drawing at all that shows the slope of the site? Is there so like a simple box that shows just the height of the building will gets us where we need to be? We don't need, we're not looking for you guys to do a full 3D elevation drawing, but something that will show the massing.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think it's looking for, right?
Yeah, if you built 3 containers stacked on top of each other, tuck it back in the way that the current envelope of the property sits, it nestles back, you really don't see the building. Whereas if you decompose that now into 3 different sections and you spread it across the envelope of the property, now you're spraying out the actual facility. So it makes it look and appear much more massive. I'm not saying that's the right or wrong thing to do. I don't know if it's cheaper or more expensive to build it that way, but the way the flow for the usage of all of the land and all the purposes of the land is intriguing option A.
Lisa?
All right, I like option A where the playground is and everything just seems like it really kind of keeps that elementary school feel.
It kind of keeps like, almost like you still have Park, right?
Right.
You have a separate building, its own playground, it's somewhat self-contained.
And I've mentioned this before, what I don't like about it is the admin and the principal and stuff being, kind of what seems like so far away.
Yep.
In case of emergency. I am wondering, and my gut feeling is that the community or the people who live around there would rather have C because it seems less intrusive. So my vote would be C.
Thank you. Laura? I'm just going around. If you don't have any thoughts or comments to share,
Well,
feel
I like
free
the
to.
creativity and moving around where the playground is, but the C version doesn't show us where they would propose the playground.
Right, we haven't had our civil engineer, we're just gonna work up a plan for this to be able to determine the best locations.
I think C would be more supported by people who live in the village, because go with A, we're going to have the fifth graders be on the equivalent of a third floor. Every time they have to go to the cafeteria, the library, the gym. Even music.
The desire was expressed on previous meetings to maintain the existing playground where it is now, you know, in the pines that are there. Just, you know.
Thank you, Laura.
And it's
Christine?
not just fifth grade, you have second, third, fourth, and fifth are all on the third floor.
Mhm. In option
Yeah. That's a lot of fun. I mean, I think our third grade teacher was about 80.
A. Yeah. Right. Yep. Okay, Christine.
I like option C better. I like Brian's point about the, shifting the playgrounds because it is kind of chaotic up there on the field. But everyone else said it seems like it would be more conducive to showing to the community that it's going to be a behemoth built into the rocks.
Mr. Crockett.
I have a question. Have we resolved the ownership of the upper field?
It's owned by the Amherst School District. It was purchased with the land through the Land Water Conservation Grant. A grant through the Land Water Conservation Fund. So if we use that field, we do have a responsibility to replace the field somewhere in town. Which is another point
I
to
think you
note
may
with
have
that
to
plan.
get to the town to vote on that. You're gonna have a problem, I think,
For option A, with option A,
yes,
yeah.
for the land itself.
Mhm.
Other than that, I'm not for option C. I am for option C, I'm sorry. I had a hard day today. Oh. Option A, we had some preliminary cost for doing that field. It came like to $2 million, just preliminary. So I look to say, let's save that money and use it on the existing building as we can to conform to a new building as option C. Is it my understanding that the field in the back is the leach field for the school presently?
Yes,
Okay. That may be an issue when we come to the floodplain issue. Okay, we may have to bring that to the front.
Ingrid, is that the active field or was that field abandoned?
Good question, but in either case, step one for the first summer, if the bond passes, would be to do a new leach field in the front.
That is correct. I'd like that better.
Yes.
Next to the portables is definitely the pump station right now.
Right.
Okay. Other than that, maybe a little more drawing to understand, especially what I call a racetrack around it, so the fire department can get at it. But other than that, my option is C.
Thank you. Mr. D'Angelo, I know you're here as a liaison, but you've been to all the meetings, so I'd love any input.
Not sure I have a strong preference. I have a weak preference for C. But in listening to the meeting, it seemed to me that there's less potential complications and therefore less potential unforeseen costs. C than there is today. There's a lot of unknowns today, legal, political, et cetera. Fit the school adoption C would probably be smarter to go that way.
Thank you. Victoria?
Yep, I voiced support for option C before, and I'll voice it again. I don't think that going up to Jones Road is something that we need to do right now. So I like using the site for a wrap.
I would go with option C as well. I think it'll be easier to get it to pass. I also think that you're not building into the side of the hill, and I don't know that we really know what we're getting into with that. And it would seem to me, I don't know much about construction, but the amount of concrete to just build and shore up that upper level into the side of that hill would be would be a huge amount of concrete or whatever you have to put in there. So I would think that'd be a deterrent for us.
Yeah, so I've also expressed my feelings before. I think I like option C for a lot of reasons that have already been stated, so I won't repeat them. But I also really love reusing and repurposing the multipurpose room. I think, that's a part of the plan that I really like, being able to, instead of that, I think, what is that, like 9,000 square feet of light renovation and not new construction. So, I like that. Are there any other discussion points around A and C? I feel like going around the room, we're all moving in that same direction. We still have a lot of questions. And again, like I said at the start of the evening, we still have a lot of things to go through and work through. But in order to move Banwell and the construction management firm, when they come on board in the right direction, we need to have a direction. So that's sort of the idea tonight. Are we going the direction of option A or option C? So if there's no additional discussion, I would like to go around and take a vote of this committee, but I'm also happy to continue discussing if we feel like we need to do that. Okay, great. So how should I do this? Would someone like to make a motion for either option A or C?
I would like to make a motion that we accept options C for our preliminary design to be presented to the school board.
Yeah, second from Brian, and I'll just roll call around the room. Gascoigne, yes.
Gothier, yes.
Crazy, yes.
Christine, I think it's to you. Okay, so we have a recommendation to move forward for a direction on a plan to the Amherst School Board, and we will make that recommendation tomorrow night, along with the recommendation of the construction management firm, which we have interviewed at our last meeting. And then we will meet again to discuss all of the other details and questions, but that was really the objective of our meeting this evening. That, unless anyone has any other business that they would like to discuss before we meet again.
Before you go, the architect have any questions for us right now?
Not yet. Get ready though.
Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Happy to.
Oh, and, one moment.
Yeah, I think it probably would make sense for us to talk a bit about the cost and the scenarios that we talked about
Sure.
at our last meeting
Yeah.
in order to bring that information to the Amherst School Board tomorrow. So I don't know, are you going to share your screen or do you want to talk in general terms? So Adam has a spreadsheet that we shared last time on
Yeah.
the cost breakdown.
Mhm.
We also talked about changing the design capacity. And Vanwell had the opportunity to relook at their program and do some work to show us what potential cost savings would be. So we can tack those onto the estimates and have a preliminary cost
Yeah.
to present tomorrow.
So ultimately, the school board has to pick a cost to go on the ballot, right? And choose what's the number that will go on the ballot. Get into that, if each of us in the room came up with a number, we may each come up with a different number, and each of them would be right, because they're all estimates at this point based on different assumptions. So this group might help the board in getting to that number. And so I think the appropriate next step would be for us to share with Banwell and then ultimately our CM, our draft of cost. I'm not a cost estimator. I've done this before, so I have an idea how things, but I don't know what a SWIP costs right now, or all sorts of other things. So it'd be nice to get their opinion, have them report back at the next JFAC meeting, so that then this group can make a recommendation to the school board about what number we should be thinking about at this point for the ballot. Because Amy needs to go to the CIP folks want to know the number. Folks in town still think $96 million. They want to know the new number, right?
Yeah.
So eventually we've got to start landing that plan. So would it make sense for Amy and I to work with, and Roger and I to work with CM, Ingrid, and work on getting a recommendation from those two folks to then report back here?
Does
Please.
that make sense?
Yep. So can we,
Ingrid, are you good with that?
Yes, yes.
just to understand the timeline that you're looking at, because we have obviously scheduled a public hearing that the Amherst School Board is planning to attend at the end of September as well. How quickly are you anticipating working towards that number? When
Yeah.
will you come back to this group?
So when is the next JFAC meeting after this one?
And I think that it's the third Thursday in September, but I don't,
Okay.
I'd have to double check.
So I think by then, to then go to the Amherst School Board for the meeting in early October, so that would make sense to me. The construction manager, as part of the interview process, provided an opinion of cost. The next estimate, as they said, I remember very clearly in the slide, our next estimate is the most important.
Right.
And so that's the first thing we need to get them to do between now and that JFAC meeting. And so perhaps they should even be here for that meeting to walk us through
Mhm.
their opinion of cost thus far. I just want to caveat that, and we can't expect them to have a number that's this accurate, because I've described before, the number tonight that we come up with is this wide in terms of what the actual cost will be, which means the high side is what will go on the ballot as of tonight. After this next estimate that they do, it's going to narrow with this much, but it's not going to be until after the project is passed. Ingrid designs the whole thing. The CM goes to the full subcontractor bidding process, that we get it down to this much. And even still, there's going to be, during the process, we're going to find issues that make it go up or down or whatever, and then 5 years from now, we'll know the actual cost of the project. So I just want to always be clear that we're just narrowing the buffer zone between estimates on the low and high side.
So we meet tomorrow night, and then we meet September 7th, and then JFAC meets again September 9th, according to what I have on my calendar.
Okay,
So-
okay. So the 9th, which is fast.
Which is after our September meeting.
Right.
It's probably a little unreasonable to
Mhm.
ask.
Mhm.
So
Construction managers to put a price to get right.
Yeah.
Would you consider moving your JFAC meeting in September later, so it's just before the October Amherst board meeting?
Yeah, absolutely, of
So
course.
the only question that I have with that is regarding our first public hearing
Right, that's-
for JFAC. We've scheduled that, I believe, for the 23rd
Right.
of September.
Yes.
Does that need to be adjusted?
Yep, so that would be my only question regarding that.
If you do it, if you have the JFAC meeting before the 23rd, then you can at least say on the 23rd, here's the information that's going to be presented to the other school board.
But is that enough time for the construction management firm to John's point?
Not really, unless they unless they can just come up with some alternate costs. And do like what Adam said, make it this big.
What they did for the interview
Yes.
process, basically.
It's, in this environment, it's tough to put prices together with the way the costs are going crazy.
Well, you have a meeting October, the next public hearing is October 12th too. So and that's
So
a
could
week
we
after the
wait
ASB
just-
meeting.
So are you suggesting maybe that September 23rd meeting doesn't happen?
Yeah,
we
we'll have the
do our
public
first
hearing,
one,
I'm saying that
right.
maybe you
That's
move,
not the right date.
move JFAC to the 23rd or the 30th, and then you have Amherst is on October 4th, and then you could do that October 12th is the public hearing.
So we make September 23rd the JFAC meeting
I would say
instead of
September 30th.
September 30th. Okay. Okay.
And we need the
So we all
construction
know.
managers and the architects
Mhm.
in person. I think would be better.
Okay.
So the CIP number that I'll be presenting, John, will still be a very rough estimate. So just to state that publicly.
Not as rough as last year's number.
Not as rough as last year, but still rough.
Well, it's still high, and you can always come in under it. So,
Okay, I haven't checked any other SAU calendars or anything, but can we just pencil in September 30th for now? And
September 30th is Friday.
No, it's a Thursday.
September 30th is Thursday.
Thursday.
There's nothing else in the SE calendar.
No.
Okay. All right. So 6 o'clock, September 30th. Will that work for you all, Brad and Ingrid, or if you need to check calendars and get back to us?
Yes, that works.
Okay,
Roger, maybe you guys will coordinate this.
perfect.
Yeah.
All right, great. That's great. Any other business that I'm missing?
Thanks for walking through that.
Yeah.
No, I appreciate it. That's, I mean, we want these meetings to make the most use of our time, and I appreciate all of you being here tonight, sort of off schedule. I think that we're reaching that phase where we're going to need to, at times, meet more frequently than once a month and to meet off schedule. So thank you for your flexibility and dedication. With that, I will adjourn.
Are we talking about all middle school?
We're not having middle school tonight. No, not on the agenda tonight. All right, so with that, I will adjourn the meeting.
Good night.
5:30. Thank you, guys. We'll see you.
Bye.
Bye.